What's up, everybody? Mike Hart, testing some shit out. Testing out my camera as a, what do you call it? Streaming device. My cool camera, my nice camera. Life is fun. It's all fun. So, yeah, and I can test out my screen, switching between screens too. Look at this. Look at that, guys. Look how cool that is. OMG. Let's go over some comments, shall we? Isn't OBS great? What do we got here? Sylvia Owega. What is love? My life experience has told me that there is not such thing as true love, and what people call love, more often than not, is the act of falling in love with themselves. If my assumption is incorrect and true love, it is truly a rare gem. My assumption is incorrect and true does exist, maybe? Is it true rare gem? What people call love, more often than not, is the act of falling in love with themselves. My life experience has told me there's no such thing as true love. Not really sure what to say on that one. No true love, huh? I don't know. There's definitely true adoration. There's definitely true, feelings of love. Mission accomplished on Bill Burr puts Joe Rogan in his place. Yes, that is indeed mission accomplished. I'm generally more accepting and forgiving. Oh, my post about accepting and forgiving INTPs. I agree. People are more than just their political beliefs. That's just one piece of the puzzle that makes up someone. What about their hobbies, favorite books, movies, shows? How do they treat other people? They can say they believe something all day long, but if their actions aren't reflective of that, then do they honestly believe as much as they say they do? I've had friends from all sides of the political spectrum, and when our friendships ended due to political disagreements, they were the ones who decided to end it. By the way, how does the microphone sound, guys? Am I too close? Am I too close now? Is it way too loud? Am I too far away now? What's going on? Can you still hear me if I go all the way back here? It's hard to tell like where to have the dial set. I'm using this Focusrite with XLR cable. It's a Shure SM7B. Anyway, guys, that is completely irrelevant. You probably don't give a shit. So yes, no one needs to know my name. So why does no one need to know your name? That's my question. That is my question on your comment. Why does no one need to know your name? I don't like it when people are too anonymous. But thank you for your comment. But yes, I've had friends from all sides of the political spectrum. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, it's gotten really bad. I used to have a friend that was, we definitely were in disagreement, but that back in those days, I wasn't really political as a teenager at all. And he would always want to start these political fights with me. He was an ENFJ. He was really political. He'd always want to start these disagreements, and I was just like, I don't know. He was like so opinionated. He was so sure he was right. That's what irritated me about him is he read a couple books by Marx basically, and listened to a couple things one of his uncles said or something, and then he let his feelings guide him into these beliefs that were so strong that he was willing to be part of these like groups to affect change. These groups that actually were not the most positive groups in the world, and it just I never understood that about him. He didn't use his head at all. And we actually had a falling out at one point, and after that, we had a fight over it, and he actually apologized to me, contacted me a few years later, and said he's never spoken about politics with any of his friends ever again. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, I wasn't the perfect friend to him after that, though. I kind of had some resentments toward him, and yeah. Anyway, normally I'm a very loyal, trustworthy friend, but I did kind of I was kind of shitty to him in some ways after that. So I had some resentments towards him. He was just, in a lot of ways, growing up, he was just a dickish friend, you know. Yeah, he had a lot of abuse and stuff that he dealt with at home, so I'm sure that played a part. Justin B 9612 agreed. I find that intuitives tend to have an easier time seeing other perspectives and not judging a person solely on a couple of differing opinions. I would normally agree, but there was someone in my Facebook group, an INFJ, that disagreed with that exact same post where I said INTPs are generally very accepting and forgiving. She tried to say that that gets them in trouble and that's actually a bad thing that they're accepting and forgiving. And she tried to say it's low disgust sensitivity. She clearly disagreed. She's one of those INFJs. They're not all this way, but some of them, a lot of NJs can be very like, I don't want to say bigoted, but they can be, you know, once they make up their mind about someone, that's it. I mean, I've seen a lot of NJs. They won't talk to homeless people. Now that's rare for INFJs though. INFJs usually are accepting of people, but this particular one, she was very black and white. She actually tried to defend black and white thinking on another post. So anyway, but normally, yeah, I would agree that. But I mean, it really depends. There's other factors involved. There's some SPs too that are pretty open-minded, especially SPs who have well-developed intuition. I would say a good example of that is a channel by the name of Flow State. A friend of mine named Taylor, ESTP, he has pretty well-developed intuition. He has a lot of interest in the abstract, and he probably has one or both parents that are intuitive types. In fact, I think he does have one. But he's high openness for an SP. There's some types that really struggle with that, but I won't name them. And of course, there are exceptions. Yeah, there's exceptions to all this stuff, you know. Psychology in general makes generalizations, guys. That's really what we're talking about. So when people complain about generalizations, you're in the wrong field. Your interest is in the wrong subject if you don't like generalizations, because psychology, that's literally what you do in psychology, is make generalizations. And you can be very effective, and you can help a lot of people. You can help millions of people with generalizations, because the point isn't to take the generalizations as black and white facts. The point is to help them guide you in your decisions. So, like, for example, attracting women. It is a fact that your chances are going to be higher if you have certain personality traits. Of course, there's going to be women who are attracted to different things, but if you want to increase your chances of attracting a woman, there's certain things you can work on that can really help you in that area. And I get a lot of people disagreeing with me, you know, like, oh, well, I'm a girl, I'm not attracted to this. I'm a girl, I'm not attracted to that. It's about increasing your odds. And statistics are very clear on the things that women are attracted to by and large. So hypergamy is a real thing. Women, as much as they don't want to admit it a lot of the time, they want a guy who's better than them. And I know that's really simplified way of stating it, but that's really what it comes down to. They want a guy who's taller than them. They want a guy who's richer than them. A lot of the times they want a guy who's smarter than them. And guys are essentially the opposite. We want to feel like your hero. We want to feel like we're saving you. Anyway, we're not going to get into that right now. I'm going to try not to get on too many tangents here, guys. But yeah, generalizations, guys. This is too long. I don't want. Nah, it's way too long, dude. I will not read a comment that long. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. Like, why? like, no offense. Why would you write something that long? You really think I have time to read all that? Arnold Schwarzenegger, how to stay married with political differences. He had a kid with his maid, and you're interviewing that POS. Well, I didn't interview him. And, you know, Are you perfect? That's the question I have for you, Ronald Flood. Are you perfect? Are you a perfect person? By the way, sorry, no one needs to know my name. I don't mean to sound like a dick. I know how that can feel if a YouTuber you look up to, obviously, because you comment on almost everything. But that is a really long comment. I don't have time to read that whole thing. How did you have time to write all that out and like on pretty much every post too? So this is what I'm talking about, guys. Have some forgiveness. I mean, are you perfect, Ronald Flood? Are you perfect? No, maybe you haven't slept with your maid and let her stay in your house. That was obviously a really shitty thing he did. But you know what? He's also got he's also, you know, got a lot of other cool traits. Yeah, he's an asshole. Everyone knows he's an asshole. Everyone knows Arnold Schwarzenegger's an asshole. But he's got a lot of other cool traits. He's hilarious. He's talented. One of the most successful people on the face of the planet. There's a lot of things to be admired about the guy, but a lot of admirable people have a lot of shitty traits. It's the way it is, you know. And Bill Burr had an interesting take on that at one point. You know, people, when O.J. Simpson goes into a bar or whatever and people start screaming murderer, he doesn't see him as just a murderer. He still sees him as a murdering piece of crap, but he also sees him as one of the best football players of all time. Now, obviously, I wouldn't like O.J. Simpson, but still, I think obviously murder is a lot worse than what Arnold did here. This was someone, an atheist, commenting. I already replied to this one. Maybe I probably should have filtered out just the ones I haven't replied to. Don't know if discussion is invited, but I thought I'd shoot my shot. You know, there's a couple people that tried to say I don't like discussion. It's not that. I don't have time to reply to everyone. I get a lot of comments, guys. You have to remember, I'm an introvert, so I don't exactly like go looking for conversation with strangers, people I don't know. So at all. Anyway, atheists or use or misuse language. So yeah, I already read this. It's not that atheists misuser. My position is that I do not believe in God. Their position is this, in this instance where would therefore not be a lack of position, as you say. No, but some of them try to say that it's a lack of a position. That's basically what they're doing. That's what they're doing to get out of having arguments. That's what they do, is they say it's not a position. It's not a belief, but a lack of belief. That the reason they do that is because it's usually when you ask them for evidence. That's when they'll say things like that. Well, they'll just say, well, I just haven't been convinced. Okay, well, that's not atheism. That is agnosticism. So they need to make more modest claims instead of nature is all there is. There is no supernatural reality, because those claims exceed what they can show the burden of proof for. They simply cannot demonstrate those things at all. And those claims are beyond what they can demonstrate. They need to make more modest claims instead of those highly atheistic claims. So they're making atheistic claims, but then saying, oh, I don't actually believe in atheism, though. I just lack evidence. So, sorry, it is not a lack of a belief. It is a belief. Saying there is no God is not the lack of a belief. It is a belief that there is no God. Saying it's not a belief is a cop-out to avoid having to give arguments, is basically what it is. Wow, how times have changed. Definitely did not age well. Wish he still, though this... Yeah, I asked you what that means. I have no idea what that means. What is love? The purest expression of free will. Arnold Schwarzenegger is not an INTJ. I agree totally. I don't know why so many people think he's an INTJ. Probably because they assume that much intensity requires I, which would be incorrect. I think he's more ESTJ, though. Look at how often he repeats himself. NTs are more like, oh, come on, dude. You're gonna say he's an ESTJ over how much he repeats himself. This is the kind of stuff, guys. This is the kind of stuff in the community I can't stand. Every single rando on the web thinks they're an expert. It drives me nuts. Oh my gosh. That's a really dumb reason to call someone an ESTJ. So, I mean, and it's funny because the people try to say he's an INTJ is because he has such a strong NI vision, and you're just gonna like throw out the vision entirely. You're gonna throw out his visionary nature, his highly visionary nature entirely, and say he's an ESTJ. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, what other evidence do you have? Oh, that's a repeated comment. What is love? Falling in love is a biochemical thing that creates enchantment. So I've been wanting to keep these philosophical. So just telling me the science behind what is love, I already know that. So there's philosophical answers, ways to answer things, and then there's scientific ways. The philosophical ways are more interesting because those are the ones that are still to be explored. I mean, there's still more to explore in science too, but real love can develop out of the initial enchantment with care and effort. There still should be a real compatibility and friendship between people. Real love, in my own opinion, is a discipline and commitment to be a loving, caring, and devoted partner to another. Yeah, I think there's different types of love. Like in the Greek, they had like 6, I think maybe even more. They had a ton of different words for love. There was agape, and there was a bunch of other ones. I don't know them all, but there's like friendship love, there's romantic love, and then they had like 6 different words for love. We have 1. But yeah, there's different types of love. Olivia, I like this quote. Love is the most extraordinary attitude a person can have towards another. It is the noblest, wisest, most responsible, purest, and tenderest attitude. Love is the way of relating to another person that bestows upon them unimaginable strength and enthusiasm for life. To love is to carefully choose words and actions of love tailored to the unique situation of that individual. I'm going to guess both of you guys right here are NFs. Learned a lot from that comment. I feel like I needed to see this quote. Huh. Thank you. You're welcome. What I love about INFPs. I certainly agree, and I'll add that people only assumed that Ted Kaczynski was an introvert. Well, he definitely was an introvert, but it just wasn't. It wasn't what caused him to do his terrible things like that dumbass was trying to say. Many people mistaken social isolation for introversion, but do not understand that in many cases where people become socially isolated are predicated on some form of mental illness like schizophrenia, chronic depression, borderline personality disorder, paranoia, and so on. Ted Kaczynski was no exception, as he had a severe mental disorder, thus causing himself to. Well, yeah, he had a ton of mental disorders. He had schizophrenia. For instance, my oldest brother used to be far more social than myself, and was nowhere near being a deep introvert like the way I was as a kid. But once he developed the onset of schizophrenia, he became more and more socially isolated. Well, yeah, it's completely separate from introversion. Introversion is the most well-studied personality trait there is. So the people who say things about introversion, there's a lot of misconceptions about introversion. People associate it with a lot of negative things. It's just the way it is. We live in an extrovert. We live in an extroverted society. America is the most extroverted society there is. We reward introversion. We literally, like, we reward people who have extroverted qualities, and we shit on people who have introverted qualities. It's the way it is. But yeah, they're completely different. Unfortunately, there's a lot of ignorant people and a lot of people who don't understand psychology. They don't understand these concepts. I still have family members to this day try to tell me that there's no such thing as introverts and extroverts. Even though they've proven it in studies to be about stimulation. Extroverts require more stimulation and introverts don't need as much stimulation. That's one of the aspects of them anyway. So I don't know. It's just, I don't understand why there's so many ignorant, closed-minded people in the world. You know, it's just, and it doesn't help all the serial killer documentaries and shit like that everyone has watched growing up. That stuff doesn't help either. I mean, I get comments from people all the time saying that people spread all this nasty stuff about them because they're shy and awkward. And, you know, obviously if you're an introvert and you're shy, I do think you should work on your social skills. I don't think you should remain isolated. That is unhealthy. So, too often introverts come into this community and start excusing their social isolation. I don't think that's healthy. I think you should be pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. I think everyone should push themselves outside of their comfort zone. I think introverts should take public speaking classes. I think they should, try doing live streams and stuff like that. You should always be pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. I don't think you should stay in your comfort zone too long because then you don't grow. If you don't stretch, you stagnate. It's just the way it is. And so a lot of introverts do fall into that trap, especially when they learn about it in the community. That's one downside of learning about it in the community is people start just kind of accepting who they are, and which is good in some ways, but then they take it too far and then they stop growing, which I see as a problem. But yeah, but at the same time, people have to understand, extroverts have to understand that introverts, they work differently. They need some alone time. They don't want to hang out for as long as you do. They're going to get tired. They're going to feel drained. They're going to want to be by themselves after a while. And once you start noticing them getting a little fidgety and, maybe a little grumpy, you should probably leave. Probably leave them alone for a little while. Maybe come back the next day or whatever. They need some alone time to think, to recharge. That's literally how most introverts recharge. It's just being alone with their thoughts, or maybe even sometimes it was just a couple family members, just so they can reflect and ponder and recharge. And if you're sitting there listening to me right now and you don't like to reflect and recharge, you're probably not an introvert, because that's what they do. Anyway, guys. The more you learn to commit to it, the more you are happy. I also don't like people other than a couple of friends. I am settled. Family and money is all you need to be happy, honestly. Yeah. A gift from life that most of us take for granted because we don't know how to use it properly, so we end up wasting it for nothing. What are you talking about? Oh, time. Finding time this time. I hope I wasn't reading other people's comments as defining time. I don't think I was. Time, a gift from life that most of us take for granted because we don't know how to use it properly, so we end up wasting it for nothing. Yeah. When I was in a philosophy class, it was Intro to Philosophy back in like 2004. It was one of my electives when I was getting my first degree. I remember my philosophy teacher, he asked this question, what is time? And, we spent like maybe 20, 30 minutes going around. Everyone gave their opinion of what time is or their definition. And he's just like, he stood there. He's like, isn't time just measurement of change? And all of us just thought, interesting. Like we were like, that's actually really interesting. Is it just a measurement of change? I don't know. That kind of stuff's really interesting to me. Johnny Depp has money. Subconsciously, a woman finds that more attractive than his face. So a lot of guys complain that women only want money. It is true that money can be attractive quality for a woman, and I don't think that's something you should be upset about because it makes sense. I mean, put yourself into the mind of a woman. If she has to be pregnant and out of commission for like 9 months and then take care of the baby while it's growing its first few years, breastfeed it and all that, she's got to find a guy that can support her. Like, is a broke guy going to be able to support her while she's like out of commission for a few years? I mean, you got to put yourself in the mind of a woman. A lot of this stuff that upsets you, men, makes a lot of sense if you actually try to look at it from the perspective of female psychology. Same thing in the reverse when women look at things that, why does he have money, though? Because he's attractive enough to be in Hollywood. I mean, that's one aspect. He also has a lot of connections. He's a likable guy. He's got started in music. The money is more attractive than any male could ever be. I mean, I don't know about that. I think it's probably about even. A lot of women try to say that women don't care about the looks, but they really do. I mean, we're all wired to first look for looks. It's the way it is. It just doesn't, it's just not gonna, you shouldn't just rely on your looks. A lot of guys think they can get by on their looks, and it just doesn't work that way. Same thing with women. I mean, to get a high quality guy anyway, you can't just rely on your looks. Like for me, for example, I don't care how good looking a girl is. If she doesn't have any other good traits, I have no interest. But cause and effect, he has the money because he was already attractive. There's plenty of poor, attractive people. I mean, that's true. You're not wrong. Money because he was always. I think you guys are actually both right. So what is your argument here? Opposites attract. Yes, opposites do attract, but it's a little more complicated than that. I was actually just talking about compatibility right here. That's for a different video right there, guys. I was showing, basically proving with statistics. I was showing what's the most attractive type according to statistics. And basically, it's the STPs, because the reason is they attract the highest number of women. So it's not saying that all women are going to like STPs. Basically, the logic goes like this. SFJs are the most common female type. ESFJ and then ISFJ. And so extroverts are attracted to introverts. S's like other S's. F's like T's. J's like P's. So therefore, ISTP is the most attractive type and ESTP second. And this is not for degrees of attractiveness, but the types that are going to attract the highest number of women. Because logically, that's the highest number of women is ESFJs and ISFJs. And of course, it'll vary between SFJs, the specific things they like in a guy, but this is generally speaking. So anyway, where was I, guys? Got no kids, no wife, only do things I want to do, love my life. You sure about that, though? Like, how old are you? Because studies show that guys who never end up married aren't happy. So, I mean, never end up married and having kids. And I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but maybe does part of you feel unfulfilled, like that you're missing something? I just have a hard time believing that. I keep forgetting to like all these guys. Harsh truth most men don't want to hear. Oh, that's the one where I said if your wife's bitching at you, it means you're not being a man. I remember my brother talking to me about the topic of women nagging. He's an INFP. He says that women should stop nagging because it doesn't make men listen. That's technically true. But he never gave a solution to the problem on how they can get men to listen to them. To be honest, I think he is wrong. They are nagging for a reason at that point. The men are just making things worse by either tuning things out or forgetting. I feel like some men are not aware of this behavior or chose not to notice it. So it's a little more complicated than that. So men have a responsibility and so do women. He says that women should stop nagging because it doesn't make men listen. That's technically true. It's not a good idea to nag. All I was saying was there's a logical reason for it. Why women nag. It usually means you're not being a man. You're not being... Basically, when a woman is nagging and being bitchy, she's expressing her insecurity in your ability to provide, to protect and provide, or now or in the future. So something's missing. Something is missing in the man equation there. which, most of us fall short at some point, so I'm not judging you. I've been nagged at by ex-girlfriends, and you know, none of us guys are perfect. No women are perfect. Um, we're all imperfect. I think probably one of the most neglected and important aspects of a healthy relationship is understanding that we're imperfect, and trying to, there's certain things that are deal breakers, but at some point there's certain things you're going to have to accept in the other person and just forgive. And that's how, they made things work in the old days. You ask any old couples that have been together for 50, 60 years, every single one of them says one component is, working things out instead of breaking up when there's differences. Nowadays, there's a lot of women, if there's any fights at all, they want to break up. It's like, oh, well, if we fought, then it's over. It has to be perfect, right? So a lot of women have this idealistic mentality nowadays. Whereas in the old days, they stuck it out. They made it work, I think a lot of it is you need to accept some faults in other people, that some things are just not going to change. It's the way it is. I mean, I've spoken about that in another video. Someone who's very attractive, who's someone you're really drawn to and attracted to, is also going to irritate you due to the law of polarity, basically. So everything great comes at a cost. So if you have a woman that has a lot of great traits, there's going to be some cost somewhere. I'm not saying I know exactly where it is. I'm just saying it exists, and you'll find it eventually. Oh, this is the one where I was asking women what they like in men, or what makes men attractive. A lot of women have asked me, why do I ask this question? Because I don't get it. That's why I ask. Because I am so heterosexual, I just don't understand how a human being could be attracted to a man. I don't understand it. That's why it fascinates me so much. That's why I ask women so often, why do you like men? It's so weird to me. What about men could possibly be attractive? I don't get it. And when women tell me I'm, or compliment me on my appearance, I look in the mirror, I'm like, what? Where? I'm like, what are you seeing? I don't get it, because I'm heterosexual. I'm not attracted to men. So I'm just like, what? It's fascinating. It's fascinating. I don't get, the things that we don't understand are fascinating to us, right? Or maybe just to certain personality types. Good listener. Often the women I meet up project emotional empathy. So the question, guys, was, what traits in men do you find attractive that women tend to not have? That's the question. Just for context, so you know. Often women I meet up project emotional empathy, which annoys the crap out of me when I'm trying to explain something logical. Men do it, but not to the severity that women do it. I've heard a similar answer from other women. A man that can have a deep conversation with, a man who is decisive about his decision, but is willing to change them when they're wrong, a man that can read social cues and can lead a social situation, because I suck at that, so you probably are an introvert. You need an extroverted man, or a confident introvert. Can understand the feelings of others well. Don't go for an INTJ. Someone that doesn't start to make assumptions about me. Instead, they check up on my thinking. I don't want a dude that is overly emotional. So many women say that. It's fine that you have emotions, but if your emotions are what you use 100% of the time, we're going to have a problem. So a lot of women complain that men don't show emotions, and they have various reasons they say this is. The main thing they think is the problem is what they call the patriarchy, or they think it's because men are socially conditioned to not be allowed to cry, which is kind of true. But it's actually a good thing. It's actually a good thing. I mean, someone's got to be the man. Being the man can be hard. It can be tough. But it's also got a lot of rewards if you can do it. I don't know where I was going with that, guys. I went off on another tangent. I'm sorry. I can't help it, guys. It's my NE. Well, yeah, it's not that you can't ever show any emotion. It's that it shouldn't be what you lead with, is basically. And when I talk about masculinity and being masculine, a lot of guys instantly when I start coaching them, they think they got to be masculine all the time, like every second of the day. I don't think you should look at it that way. I think what's most important is being able to be the man when it's necessary, when it's needed. If you could just be a man when it really counts, when it's needed, when there's a decision to be made, or you need to stand up to someone for your lady, you're in good shape. Other than that, you're just being yourself. And being yourself, a lot of guys don't understand what be yourself means. It doesn't mean be your normal, dumbass, awkward self. It means don't be afraid to be irritated. Don't be afraid to be yourself. If something annoys you, don't be afraid to call her out on it. That's what really is going to show a woman that you're a confident guy, that you're not scared of walking away from her. Out of all the things, that's the most important thing. That is how you be yourself, is by saying, I'm not going to tolerate that. Like if a woman hits you, for example, you say, that's unacceptable, and you leave immediately. And if she's at your house, you go over the door, you hold the door open, you gesture for her to leave. Guaranteed she's going to be texting you later. You have my word on that. So where were we? So yeah, it's not that you can't ever be emotional, you just can't overdo it. My introversion is causing me to be drained, guys. I'm starting to get drained from this, so I'll probably end this soon. The fourth dimension, Albert Einstein. I thought someone would say that. What is time? Symptom of knowing one's encroaching death, I think. That's a good one. Bill Burr on haters and mean comments. Well, I'm sure your stupid ass wife didn't help. Everyone's so mad about that, man. I mean, Bill Burr is not his wife. Yeah, his wife flipped off Trump. It was a low class move. I don't like it either. But at the same time, it's his wife. He doesn't agree with her on everything, And of course, he's going to defend her. It's his wife. And she's African American lady. She's in that environment where a lot of them really do think he's a racist. Even if you think they're wrong about that, at least try to put yourself in their shoes. If they really believe that, then she's actually, in her mind, she's justified. So I don't know. I feel like people need to look at things at a broader perspective. We're all human beings. We're all imperfect. We all screw up. And I think people need to be more forgiving of others. I miss the days. Of being able to have friends who are different political persuasion. You can't do that anymore. It doesn't exist. You just can't. Back when I was a kid, I remember those days where people just openly talked about who they were voting for. Nowadays, you got to be careful, even talking about it in certain areas, certain towns and places. I don't think his career's done. It probably didn't help his career for doing that, but because of idiots. Responses to the post. Oh, so I thought it was a pretty interesting conversation on my post, asking if there's such thing as progress without regress. And so there hasn't been one example yet, guys, except for the only one that technically would be progress without regression is God. But the thing is, the word progress does not apply to God because God's a perfect being. So it's just it doesn't work. Yeah, past time is regression because so basically any kind of progress is regression. So the other best answer that I got was time passing. That progresses, time progresses without regression, but technically that's not true due to the second law of thermodynamics, which is that everything tends to disorder, everything's breaking down over time. Entropy, guys, entropy. Only alphas attract women, Johnny Depp. Yeah, women love 60-year-old dope heads. This guy is an absolute clown. Oh, go F yourself, Daniel New York 315. Couldn't think of a better name. I like Johnny Depp, so why don't you go F yourself? Yeah, Johnny Depp's not a perfect guy either. Obviously, we all watch the court, videos. He's obviously not a perfect guy. But, I like Johnny Depp. I think he's cool. Bill Burr's not a perfect guy. I like Bill Burr. I think he's cool. Arnold Schwarzenegger's not the best guy. He's cool. I don't understand why people do this thing and like, oh, you said something I disagree with, so F you. I'm perfect. It kind of reminds me of the quote, Jesus' quote, "Let ye who is without sin cast the first stone." It's when all the guys were about to stone the prostitute, and that's what Jesus said. You guys, the only person who can throw a stone is someone who has never sinned. Which one of you? And guess what? They all walked away. They dropped their stones and walked away because there's no such thing, guys. There's no such thing. This is why works-based ideologies are false. There's no such thing. We're all imperfect, guys. No, you're a liar. Is Johnny PDF Depp was not... Dude, you really need to do spell check or something. I have no idea what you're saying. Not rich or famous women would not be effing with him. Okay, stop being a lying clown, please. I'm going to block that guy. I'm blocking you, bro. After I read his other comment. Johnny Depp, no, he's not. Go F yourself. You don't even deserve to be on my channel. You're done. You're done. Why? It usually gets rid of all of them, so I don't know why. For me, stability and confidence are important. As an INFP, there's a bit of chaos in my life and mood swings and lots of ideas. That's all NFs. Therefore, I really appreciate the opposite of that in men. So NFs, that's one of the reasons NFs love NTs so much, because the lack of the scatterbrain. We're more, focused, and we help them out with the scatterbrain. This whole tidal wave of alpha content that has flooded the internet is strange. Yeah, and it's overdone. Human beings have a tendency, because human beings naturally want certainty. And so once they learn a new ideology, like the stuff that Andrew Tate spouts, which there's some truth involved, but he overdoes it and he's toxic. And, the problem is you got young kids that want certainty and are black and white in the way they think, and they start taking everything the guy says as the word of God. That's when you have a problem. You got people like Brian from the Whatever podcast that literally recite all this manosphere, red pill, all these facts, that are only looking at one side of the equation and blaming women for everything. Dude, you're doing the exact same thing that the radical feminists are doing, just in reverse. So society, we have this tendency to keep repeating the same patterns, back and forth, back and forth. This group of people wrongs this group of people, and so the people who are wronged do the exact same thing in reverse as revenge, and it's just a cycle that repeats throughout history, and we've been doing it for thousands of years, and we haven't caught on yet. That's how crazy us humans are, and how set in our ways that we are. We've been doing this stuff for thousands of years, and we haven't caught on that, hey, maybe this is why we can't get rid of wars. Maybe this is why we can't have world peace, is because we keep fighting all the time. Maybe that's the answer, is to stop fighting all the time. Really, the answer is love and forgiveness. True love and forgiveness, not the type that certain groups talk about, which is love towards people who they agree with. That's not love and forgiveness. Love and forgiveness is loving your enemies. Anyway, end rant. Anyway, guys, this is getting kind of long. Maybe I'll make a part 2. Thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe, and have a good day.